Hiya! Welcome! It's Records Roundup 41 today. I've got, I think, 5 albums to show you, and most of these, apart from one which is a new release / reissue, were absolutely bargain prices. So it's almost like a bit of a bargain special today, as all but one of these I got on a really good discount. And also I'm showcasing a couple of new online record shops. Not new as in they've only just come into existence, but new to me in relation to purchasing stuff. So I will start with one of those record shops now, and it's one that I was familiar with, and I have been checking the site on and off for quite some time, because they're the local record shop of my old Sodcast co-host Jason Clow down in Hampshire. The shop I'm talking about is Vinilo, I think it's pronounced. They've got a branch in Southampton, that'll be Jason's local branch, and I think they've got one in Bournemouth and somewhere else. The 2 records that I purchased from them were in their half-price summer sale, and I think from what the return address said on the mailer, they were dispatched from the Southampton shop, so that must be the main one out of the little chain down on the south coast. Anyway, both of these albums I think were half price, so £12 each, and then a little bit more in postage, so the total order was just over £30. And here's the first one. This is Marcel King, Reach for Love, singles 1983 to 1988. It's a Record Store Day release from this year. I remember seeing this and I thought I'd get that at some point, but I don't really want to get it on Record Store Day. I mean, I didn't literally get anything on RSD because I had to wait for my online order at Banquet to be fulfilled, which took a few weeks. I always thought if I ever saw this cheap, then I'd pick it up, and half price, £12. It's got the original price sticker of 24 there. It was 12 in Vinilo's summer sale. Marcel King, there'll be some information on screen, but to kind of recap on that, it was a soul singer with a band who won New Faces in the early 70s, the RTV talent show that predates stuff like the X Factor, etc. They had a number 1, I think, in the UK with Sad Sweet Dreamer, Sweet Sensation they were called, and then they split up a few years later. They were kind of a one-hit wonder, I think. Marcel King kind of resurfaced on Factory Records, of all places, in the 1980s. He had one single, really, that's all that came out on Factory, Reach for Love, which is an excellent single produced by Bernard Sumner of New Order. So there's a nice New Order connection here. Never had an album come out. He passed away at a fairly young age in the 90s. Finally, he's kind of been immortalised in an album. So this is kind of like a compilation. There's only 7 tracks on it, and 3 of those are versions of Reach for Love. And then there's other tracks, Hollywood Nights, Love to Shine, Keep on Dancing, I think may have been the original B-side for the Reach for Love single. Reach for Love is fantastic. Hopefully, if the copyright Gestapo will let me, there'll be a little bit played in a moment, but it's such a great electro single, and just it having that Factory and Manchester association just really appeals to me as well. Some brilliant production from Bernard Sumner, who I think is a really underrated producer. He's done a lot of great stuff for other Factory acts and others who aren't on Factory, if it comes to that. Some nice kind of sleeve notes on the back here, which I'll have a proper read of when I'm listening to this. I thought for £12 I had to have it, really. I wasn't desperate for it during Record Store Day. It wasn't one of my 3 must-haves. In fact, there's another one that I think might be a Record Store Day 2023 release in a moment. It's such a great voice, Marcel King, and I urge you to check out at least Reach for Love, if not listen to some more, which I'm not familiar with really much else on here. I think I've heard Keep on Dancing before somewhere, but yeah, can't wait to get stuck into that. Great price, Reach for Love, the singles from Marcel King.
When you reach for love,
So the second purchase from Vinilo in this order was also what I think was half price. There was no price sticker on this. Now, I've not listened to this yet, but I had to open it to see which version it was, because there's about 5 or 6 different vinyl variants on Discogs, and I wanted to log it on Discogs when I got it, but there was no hype sticker on. I think, and I'll get this out now, I haven't even told you what it is yet, I think this might be the RSD release, but I'll have another look at the vinyl in a minute, and if I've made a mistake then I'll correct it. It might even be something that's not been added to the Discogs database, in which case I may do it myself at some point. But this is a covers album of What's the Story Morning Glory by a New Zealand kind of indie pop, dream pop band called, and I think I'm pronouncing this right, Yumi or Yumi Zuma. It might be Yumi, I would have thought, but it looks like Yummy. So yeah, they've covered the entire second album from Oasis, and I've heard bits and bobs of this, and it's interesting. I thought for £12 I'm going to have a punt and give it a proper go, listen to it all. You know, it's going to be markedly different from what is an iconic Britpop era record. Let's get this out quickly. So as I say, I did open this to check on the vinyl colour, and from my research I may have got it wrong, and I may have to go back into Discogs and update, but it seems to be the edition that came out for Record Store Day. I think the info I've put on screen is just like the original release info, but it's a really nice record. Look, it's red and clear swirl, or red and grey. Look at that, that's a really eye-catching record, that. I didn't really mind what variant I got. I think some variants are rarer than others. I just wanted to get this album at a good price and give it a go. I'm not going in blind, because as I say, I've heard 1 or 2 tracks on here, and overall I've found it quite entertaining. I think this came out in between a couple of normal studio albums for Yumi Zuma. I don't really know anything about them apart from that they're from New Zealand. They're quite well known on the indie scene over there and internationally. But I thought it was an interesting and unusual idea for them to cover an entire Oasis album. So I'm looking forward to listening to this. What's the Story Morning Glory by Yumi or Yumi Zuma.
Step outside, summertime's in bloom. Stand up beside the fireplace. Take that look from off your face. You ain't never gonna burn my heart out. Sally can wait. She knows it's too late. We're walking on by. So slide away. But don't look back in anger. I heard you say.
We continue with the bargains, and here's one from Mute Bank. So Mute Records sent their newsletter out, and it was a special one saying, you know, this is a link for newsletter subscribers only for a sale, and we've got a lot of signed stuff in this sale. So I went on it, and I wasn't expecting that I would find anything that I wanted. Some great discounts on some acts that I was familiar with, some all on the Mute roster, of course, that I'd never heard of. A lot of signed stuff. And then I came across this towards the end of the listings, and I saw the price for a signed LP, £6. I thought, I've got to give it a go. I'd never listened to anything by this group, but I've got a feeling I'm going to like them because 2 of their members are in New Order. Another New Order connection in this video. Came in at Outer Sleeve. This is the self-titled debut, so far only album from Shadow Party. And as you can see on the back, 3 signatures. So to get a signed album, brand new, yes, it's been unsealed from the cellophane, but they had to so that you could sign it properly, that's fair enough. To get this for £6, and to get signatures for a couple of members of New Order as well. So Shadow Party would have formed sort of maybe 2017-ish, or I think at least that's when this album came out. It's got Phil Cunningham and Tom Chapman from New Order, and also I think they're on screen, I can't remember the names, but a couple of guys who've played in Devo as well. the American new wave band, and they've got guests on this album as well. I like the little embossed logo there, or emblem, that's nice. You know, I've got a couple of signatures from members of New Order here, including postage. This was barely over £10. Is that not a proper bargain? Okay, so it's not the original members of New Order, it's not Bernard Sumner, Gillian Gilbert, Stephen Morris, or even Peter Hook, who left New Order quite some years ago. It's the two newer members, Phil Cunningham, who's been with New Order since around 2002, and Tom Chapman, who joined them after Peter Hook left. He replaced him on bass 10 years after that. I think this is probably just standard black vinyl. I ended up looking on the normal Mute Bank site just to see how much a non-signed copy of this album was, and I think, you know, it was like close to £20, whereas one with 3 signatures on it from, that's definitely Tom Chapman's signature at the top, Phil Cunningham's, I'm pretty certain, is that one at the bottom, and then a one on the left will be from one of the Devo guys mentioned on screen. The only bit of Shadow Party I've really heard is the little bit of the single Celebrate, which hopefully you'll be hearing yourself in a moment, but I didn't really care. I just totally went in blind with this, because I thought it goes in my New Order collection, really. Interestingly, Chapman and Cunningham have also formed another band since Shadow Party called Sea Fever, and they've only released one album, and I'm kind of tempted to look for that. It's not on Mute, it's on a different label. So whether Shadow Party are done and this was just a one-off, or they're focusing on Sea Fever because, you know, New Order is the main thing that they're in, but they're mostly a touring act now. Hopefully they'll release another album at some point. At the moment they're just touring and that's it. Autographs from 2 members of New Order, I think that's fantastic. And the guy from Devo as well, I'm not really giving him his due. I can't really say whether this is going to be great or not. I think it's a lot in a similar vein to certain New Order type tracks, but maybe having a more rocky edge. Phil Cunningham and Tom Chapman, they're wanting to kind of put their own sort of stamp on things, really, rather than following the New Order lead from the original members in the group. Shadow Party and Shadow Party, really happy to have got that for £6. What an absolute steal.
Clear your mind of all that's gone wrong, to the very thing that you might have done.
Now to the only full-priced album that I'm showing here in Records Roundup today, and even then I think this was a good price, but only compared to other prices I've seen it. It's a compilation that's been reissued a few times over the years. I think originally it came out probably something like 2007. You'll see the date on screen in a minute. I've always threatened to get it, I've just never pulled the trigger because I felt it a little bit unnecessary, but there is a couple of tracks at the end, I think, that I don't actually own in my collection for this artist. And I'm talking about the brand new blue vinyl reissue of Notorious B.I.G's Greatest Hits. So I was looking around and I noticed that this was being reissued. I'd almost bought the black vinyl reissue a few times, but I just never pulled the trigger on it because the price felt a little bit steep for what it was. And then I saw that this blue edition was coming out. Most of the sites I'd seen it at, they were wanting over £40 for it, which, although it's a 2 LP set, fair enough, and it'll be 180 gram vinyl, I think. I thought that was a bit steep because I've got all Biggie's studio albums. This was like kind of like the hole in the collection, but most of this I've already got. I was just going to pick this up maybe if I ever saw it like really cheap in a sale. But Juno Records had this for I think only just over £30, and I love Juno Records. They send stuff out really quick. I got this the following day after I ordered it, as often happens with Juno. So to be about £10 cheaper than the other places I'd seen this listed, and it's a pretty new release as well. Only came out earlier this month. I've not opened it yet, so I'll do that now. So I think the tracks on here that I don't have on other records, on other Biggie albums, are Running Your Mouth and Want That Old Thing Back, and everything else does appear on earlier Biggie albums. But I'm a big Biggie fan, have been for many years, and I did want to get this. I just found it a little bit sort of non-essential for the collection, but I'm glad that I waited, and to get it on blue vinyl rather than standard black, I think it's nice and fun as well. So here's your disc here. It's like a almost translucent blue vinyl here. Very nice indeed. Probably looks a bit dark on the camera. Certainly the run out I'd say is translucent. And it's 2 discs, the other disc will look the same. So I thought that was a pretty good deal for a new release, something that was only recently out. I like Juno anyway. I do recommend people just look there for almost anything. They kind of specialise in dance music, admittedly. But that's not to say they don't have a lot of other stuff. You know, you can type in almost any kind of artist or band really, and chances are they'll have something in. So there we are, greatest hits from the King of New York himself, Christopher Wallace, aka Biggie Smalls, aka the notorious B.I.G.
Look, I got ya caught up with the drunk flow from Taekwondo. I told a folks for getting mad cause they bitch chose me, a big black with G. You see, all I do is separate the game from the truth. Big bang boots from the Bronx to Bolivia, getting physical like Olivia Newt. Tricks up my all day with no trivia, so give me a bankroll and a bag of wheel. I'm guaranteed to fuck her till her nose bleed. Even if your new man's a certified Mac, you get that H-Town in ya. You want that old thing back?
I got that old thing back.
You know.
See, baby, sit me like something. What you need, where you are, you won't believe it. You win a star.
We end now with a mail opening because I had some mail come today. I think I've actually got some more due. I seem to be getting multiple deliveries some days. A Royal Mail van will turn up in the morning and then one will turn up sort of late afternoon, early evening. I don't know why. This is another website, another record shop I'd never used before. I'd seen them like Vinilo, I'd seen their sale be advertised or be retweeted by an account that I follow on Twitter, or is it X now? Yeah, less said about that the better. This is from a shop called Asai Records, I think, in Scotland. The return address says Dundee. I thought they were based in Glasgow, but I think it's similar to Vinilo where they've got multiple branches, and this looks like it might be more of a kind of delivery depot anyway. So they're somewhere in Scotland, possibly Dundee, possibly Glasgow, possibly neither, but definitely in Scotland. And this album, brand new and sealed, presumably, $5.99. And it's a reissue of one that I think came out in 2001. Nice easy mailer to open there. There's like an invoice. And it is the 3rd studio album from Embrace, If You've Never Been. Now, they had a few sections on Asai Records' site. They had like a, I think, £15 and under section. And then they also had a £10 and under section. And then a $5.99 and under section. I mean, the $5.99 and under section had a lot of what I would call unknown indie and just stuff that I wouldn't be interested in. But for some reason, this, from a fairly big band, you know, a band I like and that I'm a fan of, I've got their first 2 albums on mini disc. So I thought it was nice to get this 3rd album of theirs, and you know, I might even attempt to get some more, but whether I'll be able to get any more Embrace records at such a good price, I'm not sure. So never heard anything off here. I say that, I would have heard at least one of the singles, but never listened to the album. Wasn't paying Embrace an awful lot of attention at this point. I did like some of their stuff that came later, such as Nature's Law, and even the England World Cup song that they did that I think a lot of people slated. I thought it was a good track that probably wasn't really suitable to be a football anthem, that. World at Your Feet, that's what that was called. But I liked it. So, you know, for £6, you know, even if it turns out to be not a great album, it doesn't matter really. A bit like Shadow Party, but that was more exciting for the fact that I've got some autographs on it. I had to really take a punt on this. I probably got the last copy in the shop as well. Nice hype there. It's just on black vinyl, I won't get it open. but it is on 180 gram. There is a download code included, which I don't think many people tend to do anymore, but I won't bother using it anyway. Really happy that I found this for £6 essentially in what has been really a bargain-filled records roundup. The third Embrace album, If You've Never Been.
Rush like balloon, I fall. It's criminal to pause as you bask in the season pause. I had it all, and I forgot what I had sometimes. But if everyone's a shot at the top, and you can't get out the way, and it's all for the best, it's all the life. Everyone has their day. See, if everyone's a shot at the top, you can't get out the way. Well, it's you, wonderful say.
And that was Records Roundup 41. I think some fantastic bargains there. Everything felt like it had money off. Almost everything literally did have money off. Better than half price, really. The Embrace and the Shadow Party albums and Marcel King and Yumi Zuma were literally half price. And even the Biggie album, yeah, that was probably the standard selling price for Juno, but as I'd compared it to other prices for that edition I'd seen, that even felt like it had a £10 saving at least. So thank you all. I want to say special thanks to my wonderful subscribers and my generous patrons. Please see all my usual links in the description text box, such as my Patreon, Facebook group, referrals from places such as HMV and Urban Jungle Contents Insurance. I'm going to go now. Plenty to listen to, as there always is, at the tail end of a Records Roundup video. What shall I start with first? What would you like to listen to out of these? What wouldn't you like to listen to? Do let me know. Get a conversation going in the comments. Always appreciated. And I do hope that all of you will join me again next time for my next Records Roundup and record collecting video. Cheers, everyone. See ya!